90.9. Please join me every weekday starting at 9 a.m. for the chance to hear full-length, unabridged opera, ballet, symphonic, and chamber music. I'll share news of local concert events that you may be interested in attending, background information about some of the greatest musical compositions ever written. Tune in weekdays 9 to 10 a.m. and Wednesday from 9 to 10:30.
Robots the size of blood cells, Earth-like planets outside the solar system, science fiction.
No, science faction.
Join us, Seth Shostak and
Molly Bentley and
KSJE, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. for Big Picture Science.
Big Picture Science steps back to get the wide-angle view on science and technology.
So think big. Big Picture Science, Saturdays at 8 a.m.
on KSJE, the information and cultural beacon of the Four Corners.
Eleven minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Thursday morning, the 21st day of August, 2025. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Micklin, and thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the airwaves here in San Juan County, New Mexico. In Durango, Colorado, we're broadcasting at 103.3 FM, and if you're listening to my voice anywhere else on the planet, you've probably gone to our website to do that, ksje.com, or maybe you're listening through the new KSJE app. However you're joining us, it's great to have you here. Also, welcome to our viewers who are joining us this morning. The video of this program streaming out live to the KSJE Facebook page and also to our YouTube channel. Glad you're with us because coming up, we're having a conversation about San Juan County, talking about budget, freight rail, and much, much more. Hope you'll stay tuned with my guests. We'll start that in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Then later on this hour, I'll be joined by the one and only Alan Elmore. He is here to talk about his biannual fall cleanup in the Chokecherry Canyon area. The fall cleanup is coming up this weekend, as a matter of fact. They're looking for volunteers. We'll let you know how you can join the fun and clean up a great area of San Juan County, Chokecherry Canyon. That's coming up today, 8:50 a.m. on KSJE. Next hour, of course, Mick Hess will take over the studio, Roving with the Arts, our weekday classical music program. And don't forget, if you want to connect with us on other social media platforms, we're also on Instagram and Blue Sky and X. And if you're a podcast listener, there it is. You can subscribe to KSJE podcasts. They're available at places where you're probably already listening to podcasts. So check it out and discover a new local program that you may have missed recently. And there it is, the new KSJE app. It's available for download right now from the App Store and Google Play. You can stay connected while on the go, streaming, podcasts, much, much more, all part of the KSJE app, available now. Outside our studios here at San Juan College, already sunny and 74 degrees. We're expecting a sunny and hot day today. 94 for a high in Farmington. Partly cloudy skies tonight, the low 73. About a partly sunny day tomorrow, 94 again on Friday. Maybe a chance of showers developing Friday night, and that could last for several days. Look at that. That would be nice, right? Chances for rain on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe on into Wednesday. Is that possible? 50% chance of showers each of those days, with highs ranging from 91 down to 76. How about that? We'll see if that happens, but it would be nice. We do need the rain. I'll be back with my guests from San Juan County right after this on KSJE. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center. The caregivers of San Juan Regional Medical Center are committed to bettering the quality of life, health, and care of individuals, families, and our communities. Life is their sacred trust. Better is their mission. Here is their home. San Juan Regional Medical Center, improving the health of the Four Corners since 1910. Celebrate 36 years of tradition and talent at Farmington's annual Tota Festival and Indian Market this Labor Day weekend. Immerse in the rich culture and skill of Native American artisans. Enjoy food, join the 5K River Run and Walk, and experience the authentic Navajo rug auction as well as the powwow. It's all happening August 29th through the 31st at the Farmington Civic Center. Find the full schedule online at farmingtonnm.org.
Now back to Studio A and the award-winning Scott Micklin Morning Program on KSJE.
My guest this morning from San Juan County. Welcome back to KSJE. County Commission Chairman Terry Fortner is here. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you.
You
for having
bet.
us.
Also, County Manager Mike Stark is here as well. Good morning to you. Good to have you back.
Good morning, Scott. Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you both for coming in to talk about all things San Juan County. And we'll start with, I guess, some budget news for folks and to see how the county is doing financially. And things look to be in pretty good shape. Mr. Stark?
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Good.
In fact, some very positive news to bring to you this morning. And it wasn't that long ago that we were sitting here talking about some negative news.
Not so positive news, that's right.
To our budget and economy back in 2019. But we've seen some very positive growth here, both economically and then, of course, budgetarily. I would state that we're probably in the best shape we've been in since 2008.
Wow.
So that's going through all those years of austerity.
Right. That's right.
And the county's in a very positive financial situation, both with budget as well as reserve balances and more importantly, I think capital projects and capital budgets, which is allowing us to get a lot of positive things done here in our community.
Nice, nice. Congratulations. And what do you attribute that to, I guess? Because I know there's been a lot of concerns about the change in the economic activity, some of the energy industries shifting a little bit, and we've seen certainly the big news with power plants and the mine and things along that line, and so that certainly had to have an impact, but apparently there are other things that are maybe canceling that out a little bit. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, obviously, in 2019 when we were here talking about the more of a desperate situation in some ways, COVID hit shortly thereafter, and with the exception of the death and illness that was associated with that.
Sure.
Obviously, never want to dismiss that because that was a very dramatic impact on our community and globally. But that led to some additional funding opportunities that we haven't seen previously, both through the state and the federal government. Pre-funding a lot of projects for us, and that's helpful when you've got the money in the bank before you start moving forward versus a typical reimbursement situation for a grant, and that's allowed us to help fund some of these major projects that have been on the list for some time, like the Totah Water and Wastewater Project. City of Farmington, working collectively with them, the Pinion Hills project was a state ARPA-funded project. I know the city of Aztec is funding, if their arterial project funded. So the combination of all those projects, plus, and this is the most important part for your listeners and viewers, is the private sector growth that we've seen. A lot of private sector investment here, construction and new restaurants and stores and gas stations, and it just continues. And you see it all across Farmington, you see it all across the entire county. New projects such as solar. We've seen a lot of investment there. The County Commission just recently issued $800 million worth of industrial revenue bonds to fund the next phase of a solar project. And then a lot of interest in our area as an energy hub. And we've been an energy hub for a long time, and we're going to continue to be that. And so a lot of positive projects there that are just in their infancy stage, and we're hoping to help elevate to full implementation and completion here. So
nice,
very positive private sector growth, and we always believe at the county, and I share that with all of our employees. I know our commission does as well. If the private sector is successful, we don't have to worry about whether or not San Juan County is going to be successful. That's going to happen. So we want to make sure that that's very strong and solid, and we support them as much as we can.
Got you. Very good. Commissioner Chairman Fortner, I want to ask you the same thing about your thoughts as you see some of these numbers that Mr. Stark is sharing and some of the things that are happening with funding and some of this influx of dollars after COVID and ongoing things and the ongoing investment in the community. This is a good thing for the future. You see more projects on the horizon, perhaps?
And projects that we have right now. I want to also talk about the good stewardship at the county throughout the departments and our county manager, our CFO, everyone, our treasurer, everyone involved in this process, because myself having come in during COVID, after what Mike mentioned in 2019, just really making good use of the funds that we were receiving and what did we do during that period of time. So really it's related to the good stewardship throughout all of the county and managing that money and being accountable to our constituents.
Sure, very much so. And I know that the county, many departments have received some awards for some of the
Correct.
financial reporting and accounting methods and things along that line. So kudos to those folks as well. It's been recognized by peers and others, it sounds like, to be in the industry.
Exactly.
So-
You're right, Scott.
Very, very good. You sent over a document that I wanted to share with our viewers this morning. Radio listeners, you're missing out if you're not watching on a screen. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this and kind of talk a little bit about what you're talking about too, Mr. Stark, about some of the revenue from the county and how it's looking, and that things are in pretty good shape, as you said.
They are, yeah. Starting on the revenue side, we always are very focused on
You
that.
all like your pie charts and your graphs, don't you? You really do.
We do.
You really do. There's a lot to take in on that page, but yeah. I mean,
And
okay.
spreadsheets. We
Yes,
like spreadsheets
yes, that's
as
true.
well.
Thanks for not sending that. But yeah.
But, gross receipts tax, which is one measure of our economy
Sure.
and how it's doing, you can see the positive collections there. And I'd just point out that year over year, we're actually up 9% in GRT collections. So that goes to show that the economy is staying strong. We're expecting maybe a little bit of a leveling off after a really positive year the year before.
Right.
But that hasn't happened, and we're seeing some very positive growth there. Our number two source of revenue, which Commissioner Forder was discussing, is our intergovernmental grants. And you can see we've got $49 million of grants under management, and that is another testament to our staff. Kudos
Keeping track
to
of all those, right?
keeping track of it, going out and finding those opportunities, bringing
Sure.
those dollars from elsewhere here to be able to facilitate some of these major projects that have been on the shelf for some time. And so that's been extremely important to us. That primarily funds capital projects, although we have operating grants that we receive. For example, the Navigation Center, which has been a tremendous success for our community and being able to connect citizens to behavioral health resources here.
That's right.
That's funded by a grant from the state of New Mexico. So we really do make it an effort to try to not lean on the local taxpayers, to try to find those other sources elsewhere. And so that's our number two source of revenue is intergovernmental grants, which, like I said, that doesn't happen by chance. That
Sure.
happens by a lot of effort.
Right. And that is what puts, again, as we look at property taxes, that's your third larger income, but it's not one or two, which is important for, I think, taxpayers to realize.
It is, and we've still been able to maintain, we've talked about that a lot on previous shows, even through the toughest of times, we still have the second lowest imposed mill rate in the state for county government at 8.5 mills. Only Eddy County is lower than San Juan County. So that's been a philosophical decision by this commission and previous commissions, and we want to make certain that property tax is a form of revenue that we need to maintain county government operations. But let's look elsewhere. Let's not burden, only 6.5% of the land in San Juan County is privately owned. So we want to make certain that we're not disproportionately impacting that smaller group of landowners, and that we're finding other ways to fund local county government.
True, very true. And so with all that and the others on the revenue side, that gives you a budget of about, $157 million.
Yeah, that was actually actual revenues from last year. We're anticipating, we always budget very cautiously on the revenue side.
Okay.
And likewise, on the expenditure side, we want to make certain we're going to have a balanced budget and be able to cross the finish line. Then you do see that our total expenditure budget for FY26 is $200 million. A lot of times folks ask, well, how come the difference between revenues and expenditures, that's a gap, you're not balanced? Well, the difference is that it's the one-time capital projects that we're showing the full expenditure
I see, sure.
associated with that capital project. It may or may not happen in this fiscal year, but if it does, we're able to make good on that. And so that's why you see that difference. And just to highlight the expenditure side of things, public safety, as you see, is still, and that says a lot about the priority of the county commission, that public safety matters. A safe and secure community, that's our sheriff's office, that's the fire department, emergency management, our 3 detention facilities. That's very important to our commission, represents the largest expenditure line item in our budget. used to be close to 50%, but because of the influx of grants, it's a little less than that on a percentage basis.
Right.
But then you can see all the other areas of investment. And I also want to highlight debt service. We have a very low debt to budget ratio, once again, purposely done, that we're trying to manage that as well as we can, still be able to fund necessary projects for our community, but not burden the taxpayers with debt service. And
right.
We're on a trend right now to have that be completely debt-free by 2035. And like I said, as a percentage of our total budget, that's an extremely small percentage, about 2%.
Right. True. Very true. And that it deals with bonds and things like that to maybe help pay for some of the bigger projects maybe that you'd like to do. Is that the idea? And paying those down would give the county a little more wiggle room, I guess, if you needed to fund some major project in the future?
It does. It allows us to utilize existing cash flows to fund capital projects. And, of course, our group has been very good at finding resources from elsewhere to fund projects. And so that's part of the strategy.
Gotcha.
So that if we ever end up with another,
tough time,
tough weather conditions,
okay,
having to weather the storm, we're going to be able to do that.
Sure, makes sense.
I had something to say on the capital
yes.
outlay funding that we received.
Right.
And that was $7 million for the Crisis Triage Center. That's something that we're going to be addressing mental and behavioral health with. It was kind of in sequence to the Navigation Center. That came from the behavioral gap analysis, so that was very important to us. And so we're looking at the next steps, really, where that's going to be located.
Nice.
And then the other thing, we got clerk's office expansion renovation for $2.5 million. So that was a request from the clerk in order to have more room for voting in that office. So as you know, a lot of people come over to the clerk's office to vote, so it's important to be able to house and accommodate everybody.
Sure.
And then the third one I wanted to mention is the EMS station 6. That project is $200,000. So those were real important for what we received this year in capital outlay. And I want to thank our legislators that worked so hard to be able to bring this money to us in San Juan County and really benefit all the citizens as well.
Well, and those projects sound like they do kind of spread the dollars around a little bit to a lot of different parts of the county and needy populations of the county and things like that you're talking about. And that triage center is another kind of exciting project. It's kind of maybe the next step of the navigation center, as I understand it.
Correct. It's where people can, it'll be open 24 hours, and people can access it for 23 hours. It's kind of a living room style.
Yeah.
And so people come in and can help with de-escalations in very tense situations where a police officer can bring somebody in and help calm a situation, but people can also walk in as well. So they can go in and receive the treatment that they need, and it may be something as simple as they stop taking their medicines.
Right.
But really to answer that call for, as we know, the rate of suicide has gone up, unfortunately, in our country, so how can we really help people that are in distress? So that's what it's about.
And the difference there would be that the treatment would be there right there at the center. It wouldn't be, as it is now, maybe to help someone make an appointment to get treatment maybe in a day or a few days.
Correct.
But the counselor or whomever is actually on site.
Correct. And also, usually the burden is shared by the hospital and the detention center. And the wait there can be hours. And the detention center is not really the place for treatment. People do get treatment, but it may not be the best resource. So people can come there, and then it's not an inpatient either. That's maybe futuristic, the model that we will look at.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where they can get back out and tap into the resources that the Navigation Center has to see what's in the community to further help them as they go on their day.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, again, thank you to the San Juan County, because I know the county's been very a big push to get this happening. Mm-hmm. It was the county that made the study and kind of recognized the need
Correct.
in the community. So kudos to San Juan County for all of that as well. And you mentioned those industrial revenue bonds. I just want to make sure those are not the same as county issued bonds, are they? When we talk about debt service for the solar project and things like that, that's just the county being like a fiscal agent for these other projects?
Correct.
Yes?
I appreciate that clarification, Scott. That's
Okay.
absolutely true. There won't be $800 million of bond
That
liability.
might mess
on
up
our
your
books.
line here, I'm just saying. But,
It's
yeah.
a tax abatement opportunity
Right.
provided a tool
Uh-huh.
by the state of New Mexico, and
But it allows those companies that want to make that investment to be able to do that on that level of hundreds of millions of dollars.
correct, and really helps to facilitate the state's portion of some taxes,
Right.
and alleviate that and facilitate those type of projects. So.
Sure. And the other thing about that project, I just wanted to point out, at least one of the solar projects, I think, is fascinating, and maybe folks don't realize just how much of an investment's already been made because it really isn't visible from most parts of the county. I mean, you really have to go looking for it if you want to see that new solar field that is out there. It's not visible from the highway and things like that, but it's a pretty major installation.
It is extremely
And there's more coming,
large
as I
installation.
understand.
Yeah, so $550 million invested previously for a 200 megawatt solar field and 100 megawatts of battery. This next phase will end up closer to 400 megawatts and 800 million worth of investment. And then we do have another project looking on the west side of San Juan Generating Station. They approached the county commission for an inducement resolution, which is the start of, hey, we're interested in engaging in an industrial revenue bond discussion. And that's potentially a 600 megawatt, 300 megawatt solar, 300 megawatt battery on the west side of San Juan Generating Station. So what's interesting to see is, we're having some of these new type energy projects that are hitting our area, but we're also seeing a lot of interest in utilizing natural gas here for various projects. It is a more reliable, affordable source of power. And then I think some interesting news that was just released, very exciting news about Arizona Public Service related to Four Corners Generating Station. Just a couple of days ago, a press release indicating that they're going to go from a carbon-free position to carbon neutral. And they see coal being part of their portfolio through 2038. Now, it didn't indicate that Four Corners Power Plant would continue in operations, but that happens to line up perfectly with the lease that exists currently. And so that leaves an opportunity, and we're hopeful that means that plant will stay in operation beyond 2031.
Got you, because that was the original date that people were looking at, right? 2031 of a possible change out there. So
More exciting news for
Okay.
our area as it relates to energy and jobs and
Sure.
tax base and all the good things that come from having these type of economic base jobs here.
Certainly, right. And for all the things that the solar brings, I think the one downside is that the jobs are not replaced one-to-one from the loss of a coal-fired power plant. The solar fields aren't bringing back as many jobs as were lost with one of the power plants. But it's still an investment. It's still certainly adding to the tax rolls. They're paying property taxes and all those different things. And so there certainly are those positives. But just to be clear, the jobs are not quite equal.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you mentioning that. It's approximately 200 construction jobs for a year,
Right.
And then about 5 full-time jobs for a solar plant.
Right.
Of the nature that we mentioned.
Sure. But again, as you mentioned, folks are looking at our area as certainly still an energy hub, and we have the infrastructure of the power lines and the high voltage lines to get the energy from here to there, wherever there is, if it's California or other parts of New Mexico or the Southwest. So that is one of the feathers in, I think, San Juan County's cap, that we're able to offer that to these companies that want to invest here. So all good things, I would say. And yes,
I just
Commissioner.
wanted to mention also, kind of highlight the other infrastructure projects that we have going on
Sure.
right now. One thing that if folks have driven by the county, they may have seen a big building to the south of the administration office, and that is the county extension office. And what is our date? Like the end of, what were you talking about, end of September maybe? Or
They may have the contractor may have the project done by the end of September and be
Yeah.
move-in ready
Exciting.
by mid-November.
yeah,
good.
so that's something that's very exciting because it's a huge building that's going to have where there's a classroom as well as a kitchen. So just teaching young people and people throughout our community about agriculture, food, those type things that I think are really important.
Right.
And then also one thing that was had already a ribbon cutting was the McGee Park Rabbit and Poultry Barn. And we had a presentation Tuesday evening from the chair of the county fair. And one thing that really struck me is there were 600 kids that were involved in the county fair. So I just think that's really important that we had a new facility for these kiddos. And also we recognized a lady that was involved with the waterfowl. And that's a lot of time put in. I forget how many hours she put in during that week, like 150, something like that. So significant. And then another one that we did was the Total subdivision, the water and wastewater project. And that was a project that's about around 65% complete.
Right.
And so that was an area that had not had access to sewer. And those people, when we were there talking to them, they were so excited and so thankful for that. So that really is a big thing that has taken place. And then San Juan County Fire and Emergency Management received self-contained breathing apparatuses that they received $600,000 congressionally direct spending. And so that in itself, we need to always support first responders and make sure that our community is safe. So I just wanted to mention those.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and again, coming from different sources, the revenue, but again, serving the county and being spread around the county. And I know the county's done a lot of work with sewer and trying to get folks off of septic because that could be an environmental issue down the road. And so it's not the sexiest of topics to talk about, but it's certainly necessary as the county grows, and so it's worthy of conversation and a big investment. So I know it's not cheap when you talk about a sewer project.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you very much. I don't want to run out of time before we talk about freight rail. One of the exciting things that's happening in San Juan County, I know folks have been around for a while. We'll say we've been talking about this for 60 years. Why are we talking about rail still? But we are. And the county's, I think, been one of the lead agencies in this freight rail conversation of applying for grants again and working with partners like the Navajo Nation that you couldn't do this without, and there's been some good news recently, and so Mr. Stark, congratulations, because the feasibility study came back and said it is a feasible project to be able to put freight rail spur into San Juan County, right?
Indeed, yeah, both technically and economically feasible. So that was very positive news, and a lot of work that went into that study. And you mentioned San Juan County's taken the lead, but it couldn't do it without all the great partners that we have supporting the effort to include the Navajo Nation first and foremost, and the historic MOU we have in place with them. And then ultimately, our other partners in the area, the municipalities,
Sure.
State DOT, we've got our federal congressional delegation, all of them supporting this effort, our state legislators. It's truly a team effort. And
isn't it regional too? I mean, you have some support from other states as well because they see the regional impact of this project.
We do, yeah. We've presented to the Durango Economic Development Group, or I should say Durango La Plata.
Sure.
And a lot of interest from businesses up there because they see that the businesses here today, we're not talking about the ones we could bring here if we had this infrastructure, just the ones that are here today would benefit from lower transportation costs, access to new markets that they don't have because oftentimes the transportation costs make it uneconomic to get beyond the four-state area.
Right. And I think there's also a quote or a statistic that says that we are one of the larger metropolitan areas that does not have access to rail and in the country, basically. And so if you look at a railroad map, it's a big gap in this region. And so that would correct that. But the study, as you mentioned, said and confirmed that not only is the project feasible, that it has it would have the business, I guess, to make it profitable, and it wouldn't just be throwing money into a big hole in the ground, was what I got from it.
Correct. Yeah, and technically feasible. So we part of the feasibility
you could build a track
study
from here to there.
We can make that happen. Topographically, a number of different routes that I think you have up on the screen.
Right, we're showing that now.
What that could look like, and some possibilities there. And of course, I think the most exciting news of all this is that we're already funded for the next phase of this project, and that's to put together the preliminary engineering, about a 30% design, as well as the NEPA analysis that needs to be done, and to try to find that one singular route. So we've got the feasibility study saying these are all possible routes, but
you've got
now,
about 7, I think, on the map right there that we see.
A number of different ways to get from the I-40 BNSF corridor, that Transcon corridor that runs from LA to Chicago, which then gives access to international markets through the LA ports.
Right.
And then ultimately, what the study showed is the ideal location. Did study coming down the bluffs across the river, but short term, the ideal transloading facility would be located just north of NAPI headquarters. In a nice little flat, mile-long corridor there that would allow for the assembly of 100-car unit trains, which is what BNSF requires to have have access onto their main line.
Got it. Right. And the idea, as you mentioned, is to link up with that I-40 parallel rail line that goes east-west, and that would do it. But as we can see, there's a lot of different options, and that's what the next study, I guess, will look at, whether it's going down maybe the 491 corridor, the 371 corridor, or other areas, and that's all geology, which is above my pay grade. But it's a fascinating project, and I know a lot of folks are saying, well, why don't we make it a passenger line? Why can't we get a passenger line? And maybe that could happen. However, freight seems to be the most feasible because that would pay for itself, and that's the idea, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, freight's what we need. That's what's going to drive the success of this line. Would create the jobs that are associated. The study estimated about 2,000 construction jobs to build out this 90-mile line, but it would create 17,000 direct and indirect jobs. Both businesses here that would be able to add capacity, increase their business, and then the potential of new businesses that today we can't even check the box with because we lack rail infrastructure. 40% of our nation's goods are shipped via rail.
Right.
And so we're missing out on that.
Sure.
We're missing out on those new import and export opportunities because of that.
Sure. And again, this is a regional project, as we mentioned, and so again, for folks in Durango that are maybe wanting to bring in marble or stone or building materials that would be maybe cost prohibitive by truck or very expensive, this would certainly lower those costs, even to have to just ship it from or truck it from Farmington up to Colorado, but that certainly would cut the costs.
Yep. Certainly. And even businesses, we just recently, the County Commission approved a lease with Pesco for the industrial park. We'd done a lot of work up there through some grants to improve that facility, and they're going to be a new product line, water filtration system that they'll be constructing and manufacturing up there, creating 84 new economic-based jobs. But access to freight rail, when we meet with them every time, is really important because it would allow them to hit new markets and have lower shipping costs, which makes them more competitive nationally and potentially globally. Very
true. And that's the other half of that study is, yes, the imports are there, but what are we exporting out? Because nobody wants to send a train back empty down to I-40. So it's important to make sure we have the products to send out, which sounds like we do from this study. So congratulations. Yes.
And Scott, I wanted to say that this is all on our website. It's the Four Corners Freight Rail that you can access. And then there's an executive summary that came out of the cost and feasibility study. But some of the impacts from that summary talks about the emission cost savings. So to help reduce some of those greenhouse gases and criteria of all the other contaminants that happen, and also accident cost savings, what happens out on our highways.
Less trucks, I guess, bringing in products coming in on rail.
And with that said, is also the impact on the highways. So as we know, in our area, all over the state of New Mexico, the cost of highways are expensive to make or replace. So that's one cost saving that can help with this as well. And then, so that I think those were the ones that kind of stuck out to me, other than what you're talking about, the shipping cost as well.
Very true. And so I guess just to wrap up our conversation this morning, any time frame on phase 2, I guess, of this study, Mr. Stark? Is that going to get underway, I guess, pretty soon, or now?
It will. In fact, we are out to find an engineering firm to assist us. In fact, we had a pre-proposal conference yesterday, and proposals will be due into us here soon. We'll go through that process, award a contract, and we have until June of 2027 to get that process complete, and feel pretty confident that can happen. So about a 2-year time frame, in essence, to see this next phase of the project complete. And then what that allows us to do is we would be able to market this project to potential funding entities, whether that's private sector, whether that's public sector, maybe even a private-public partnership situation and arrangement. And we think, we don't think, we know we have a great case to make because of that big bubble you mentioned that sits over the four corners where we lack freight rail infrastructure for the entire region.
Right.
And the fact that, we've seen some economic disparities, both in San Juan County, the Navajo Nation, because of that lack of infrastructure. And so I think we have a very compelling case to make to funding entities, to include the federal government,
Right.
to help fund this project.
It won't be cheap, but it certainly would be maybe worth the investment from some folks, publicly or privately.
Correct. It's right now estimated, and of course, estimates are only good until you bid the project.
Right.
So, but right now, about a $1.6 billion project to bring that 90-mile stretch up to the area just north of Nappy. So.
Gotcha. Very good. But again, the benefits certainly are multiple from that project once if it is done or when it is done. So very good. Well, I thank you both for coming in this morning and updating us on all things San Juan County. It's great to be able to visit and find out what's going on in Aztec and for the rest of the county. So thank you both for being here.
You bet.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you both. My guest this morning from San Juan County with me here on KSJE.